Also, I'm drinking coffee. So, like,
Coffee.
we're going to see what the energy level
So
is here.
once again have a crispy Diet Coke,
And
but
that looks
it's crispy,
delightful.
right?
That looks like an
really
ad
good
for Coke.
I know. Sponsor us.
Coca-Cola, the small indie brand Coca-Cola, please come sponsor our tiny ass podcast.
Tiny podcast. But I'm trying something different because I usually, as you know, I usually straw. But I actually think that the straw results in over spicing of the Coke. Like there's too much
I see what you're saying.
carbonation through the straw. So even though it's like really bad for my teeth.
Wow. Oh my God, the
better.
sounds you're getting. This is actually, wow. Coca-Cola should come thank us for the free publicity we're giving them. Maybe someone will now hear of Coca-Cola because of this podcast.
I know. We shop small here. No, we actually do try to shop small.
I do try to shop small.
Have you seen this water?
Yeah, I mean, I've seen it in grocery stores. I haven't bought it. Oh
So
yeah, I have bought it.
This was like a fun niche thing because Connor and I watched I forget, we were watching an episode of like some show where like, you know, the Stanley Tucci like Italy-esque shows, but like different varieties.
Yeah.
And there was one on people drinking like different waters. So there was like water tastings. And so we like were able to find this and then we bought it. And I'm like, it actually has a taste. I'm obsessed with it. And I was watching like Tiny Desk. Do you watch the Tiny Desk concerts?
Sometimes. I've watched Alicia Keys countless times.
I was on a binge. Well, that's a good point. I was on a binge last night and I was watching Billie Eilish's, which by the way, like if you've not seen it, like you need to watch it. She's amazing. But she was drinking this and I was like, so much for my like fun niche.
No, I've seen Garrick and I will we call it getting bubbly because we're fun like that. We'll like go get sparkling water every day. I'll be like, oh, I want bubbly for dinner. So we've been experimenting with different brands of sparkling water and that one is sometimes in the rotation. There's also one at Trader Joe's that comes in a clear bottle and it's called like, I don't know, something German. It starts GER. It's like, you know what? I'm not going to try it. I'm not going to try it, but it's very good.
Send me a pic. I'm always
will.
into that water that's flat water, but I sometimes like sparkling.
I've gotten so fucking bougie about water and I just want it to be sparkling all the time. And I'm like, this can't be good.
You do great in Europe.
This can't be good. I know.
Con gas or whatever they call it. Yeah.
Wait, before we dive in, how is Avril?
I've
been waiting weeks to ask you this question.
So good. I mean, like, it has barely aged a day.
Oh my God, of course. Right, because she's been replaced by another human being.
Yeah, well, yeah, that. She's also dead, but that's a different topic.
If you don't know what we're talking about, Google Avril Lavigne conspiracy theory. I don't actually think this. I feel the need to put this out here.
Again, it's similar to some stuff we say on this podcast. I think there's enough, but I don't actually believe it.
The things we talk about on this podcast are not real. This is a real woman.
Yeah, no, I do not think that Avril is actually dead. I think the maybe the biggest surprise, first of all, like the set list was great. I really enjoyed the concert. There was not enough let go for my taste.
Yeah,
in the concert, like I needed that for every song. No Skips album. Like I need every song from Let Go to be in that set list, and it wasn't, so that was tough.
Actually, this is a great segue because I would love to hear from people listening to this podcast what your No Skips album are, because we talked about this in depth in Vermont. Ronnie and I think agree that Pure Heroine by Lorde is a No Skips album. This Let Go by Avril is a No Skips album.
Yes.
I can't think of any others right now. Lungs by Florence and the Machine, No Skips album.
Florence and the Machine,
yeah.
Definitely No Skips.
Let us know your No Skips album. I'm curious to hear. I need some new ones.
Yeah.
I'm noticing these are all female pop albums of the early 2000s.
Indeed. I'm really in my like female singers era right now. Like I definitely have phases where I'm listening to a lot of men, but right now everything I'm listening to is female. However, do you know who opened for Avril Lavigne? I did not know they were still playing. Simple Plan.
Oh my God, I did know this. I looked it up and I thought about it. I was like, oh my God, Simple Plan is playing.
So I did indeed hear I'm Just a Kid. Perfect.
Oh my God. Oh
Perfect made me cry before the concert even started.
Oh my God, that's amazing. Do you remember? I don't know if you were around, and this is kind of revealing some things to our listeners, but there was a day they played a free show in the alley in Baltimore behind the house in Fells Point.
I don't think I was there yet.
Oh my God. I wasn't there. I just heard about it, but like they have some connection to Baltimore, and there was that record store right next to the house. So they just like played a free concert. I was like, that's amazing.
Yeah. I mean, some crazy people showed up there over the years, but you and I only overlapped 2 years, and I think the 2 year overlap we had was both J. Cole and the Chainsmokers.
Yeah.
But
I
those were both
had
at
Chitty
school.
Bang, and there were some good people coming to our college.
I had
Yeah.
Nelly in a sleeveless sweatshirt in the gym.
Yeah, why not? Why not?
Why not?
Why not?
Okay, hi.
Hi. Oh my God, how are you? I feel like it's so funny because we literally saw each other 2 weeks ago and we don't see each other that much, but because we haven't recorded, I feel like I haven't talked to you
I was saying
in
hi
so long.
to our listeners, but I'm also saying hi to you.
Oh, hi. Hi to our listeners.
I was starting the podcast.
Yeah, let's start.
Hi, I'm Ronnie.
I'm Abby.
And this is Dragons in the Details, where we pick apart our favorite fantasy series over the course of an undetermined number of episodes. I feel like we're nearing a determined number of episodes. Like, we're getting there.
So I think, and I'm sad to say it, but I'm also so excited. I think this episode and the next episode are our final, I'm going to quote, deep dive episodes. I think these are the final ones that we're like, okay, we have a set theme. That's all we're talking about. And it's going to be very theory heavy, very text heavy. We're going to do our normal thing. Yep. I think our plan is to have some more fun episodes, some lighthearted episodes in between.
Maybe a mailbag or something.
Yeah, I think there's no way we don't do a mailbag. Definitely, especially after we release these episodes. I think there will be people who have things to say, if I had to guess.
Yeah, I think we'll get get some interesting feedback for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think we are nearing a determined number of episodes for the Empyrean series. If you're new here, this season, we're calling it, has been focused on the Empyrean series by Rebecca Yarros. Disclaimer, these episodes contain spoilers up through Onyx Storm. If you have not finished Onyx Storm, save this, come back later. You have been warned. Everything from here on out, fair game, Empyrean series spoilers. Also, due to the contents of that series and also who we are as people, this podcast is rated R. Do not listen to it with your children. It is not appropriate for children. Each week, we're diving into a specific topic in depth. We have been following that structure. We throw in a mailbag every once in a while because you guys have awesome theories and comments that you leave for us on social media or in our inbox or in the comment section of our actual podcast episodes, which we love. But we've mostly been talking about topics specifically. So we're coming with receipts. We do not say things on here without having at least a shred of evidence for them, even when we come up with them on the fly. And this episode and our next episode will be focused on the ending of Onyx Storm. Yay. Finally. We're doing a two-parter for this one.
This is a two-parter.
Too much to discuss. This is part one. Part one of the ending of Onyx Storm.
Yes, and I was thinking in a fun Taylor Swift nod, you know how I don't listen to Taylor Swift, but this episode could be called Xaden's version, and the next episode could be called Violet's version.
I agree with you, and I like it. But, like, we also get Violet for the same course of events that we get Xaden. Like, the last two penultimate chapters. Can I say it that way?
Yeah. Well, penultimate and ultimate.
Penultimate is just... No. But the ultimate is... what you're saying is Violet's version.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
That's 66?
Yeah, that's 66.
Okay, but 64 and 65... are largely in parallel. So you are still kind of getting Violet's experience.
Yes, I totally agree with you. This is not going to be an episode that is solely from Xaden's point of view.
But it's where Xaden maybe ends.
Yes, this is kind of gonna be like, I think, well, I don't even know. It's gonna be focused on Xaden's POV chapter. The next one's gonna be focused on Violet's POV chapter, is my understanding of what we're doing. You're looking at me like that's not what we're doing. I guess we'll see how it plays out. We'll see how it plays out.
See how it goes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do we have any announcements? I have no announcements.
Typical announcements. So season 2, if you don't know, season 2, we are going to start recording soon, but Ronnie and I both need to reread this entire series before we do that. Season 2 is going to be on ACOTAR, which you've probably guessed if you've listened to the ends of these episodes. Mm-hmm. So we're going to be diving into ACOTAR. I am desperately trying to both savor and get through Throne of Glass so that we can talk about the whole Sarah J. Maas universe. You guys do not need to do that. We will not spoil the Sarah J. Maas universe. If we have things that need to be discussed, we will put them at the end of the episode or say, hey, spoiler alert, if you haven't read Throne of Glass or Crescent City, don't listen to this. We're going to be very careful about that because I hate when things get spoiled for me. I'm literally not even reading the backs of the Throne of Glass books. I'm like, just give me page 1. I don't care. I don't want to look at the back. I don't want any.
What do you mean the back?
Like the back when there's a description. Like, on the backs of books, they have like a description.
You're not
I'm
reading
like,
the like summary blurb.
yeah, I'm not reading it.
Who does that now?
Like, I'm gonna read this book. You don't need to.
Wait, I've actually never done that
you
with
serious?
any book that I've ever read.
Okay, but if you have a new book, how do you just pick a book by its cover?
I pick a book off of like Goodreads or something. So I guess I like have a sense of the premise before I go in, but I've never read the book advertised version of the premise.
Yeah. Well,
sorry if I'm supposed to be doing that. Sorry to authors everywhere who.
I don't think the authors write them. I think like someone for the publishing company writes them. I don't know. If you know,
I'm sure
let
they
us know.
approve them though. I would hope so.
I don't know. I really don't know this process. All right, and then we are on Discord. So we are Dragons in the Details is the name of our server. We have a lot of great conversations happening on Discord. A lot of you guys are talking to each other and theorizing with each other, which is awesome. And sometimes we don't even have to weigh in because you guys are just like doing it so well on your own. So it's really great.
Yeah.
We like to just sit back and watch the chaos.
I also, so Abby knows this, and I'm obviously not going to say what it is on this podcast, but I am a user, just like personally, in our Discord.
Ronnie is truly lurking.
I'm just going to start getting in there.
Yeah, Ronnie is truly lurking, and you have no idea who she is. I am Dragons in the Detail. I'm not secret. You'll know it's me. But yeah, Ronnie's just lurking on there.
I'm in there.
Yeah.
You will not know it's me, to be clear. Okay. Corrections, omissions, social media shoutouts. Abby, do you have anything to share with the class?
I do have some things to share with the class. Let me just make sure I have my notes straight. Okay, yeah. And this is more omissions, I think, and like follow-up thoughts. And one of them I found as I was looking through for this episode, and that's how this usually happens, right? I'll be prepping for this episode. I'll find something and be like, oh, that's really interesting. That's really cool. This first one is that kind of thing where I'm like, I'm not sure this necessarily gives me a new theory or like if this just helps support. I just thought this was a really interesting sentence that we get pretty early on in Onyx Storm. This is in chapter 10. And it kind of supports the things we've been talking about with Irids and gifts and Venin and like what does it mean to have a gift versus a signet. So this is when Violet is first meeting Theophany. They're across the woods in Peromiel, and like the tornado has just shown up, Garrick has just shown up, and basically Violet's meeting Theophany for the first time. And this is a big quote. This is a big quote. People quote it quite a lot because it's when we find out what an Irid is. It's the first time the word Irid is mentioned in the book. But I thought there was a couple other interesting things happen in this quote. So the passage is, she turns her hand, she is Theophany. She turns her hand and Garrick crashes to the ground beside me, wheezing as he draws breath. Now tell me, she says, which chose you first? The one who gifted you the power of the sky or the Irid? So obviously people are very excited about the Irid part. I thought the sentence, the one who gifted you the power of the sky, was very interesting, right? Two reasons, because we have the gifting again, and Tarn gifted her the power of the sky, not Andarna. Right? So everyone who's like, oh, she's wielding lightning in the Isles because Andarna is the power of the sky, and that's what the Irids are. Like, not according to this, it's still Tarn, which I think has always been kind of like, there's always been like a little nagging in the back of my mind, like something's not adding up, something's not right with this theory. And I think this is that sentence. I don't have an answer. I don't have an answer, but this one is like, I was like, holy shit, like this is really setting off the alarm bells in my head.
Yeah, it's interesting because I feel like there's two schools of thought basically around signets the way that we've seen them. One is that like, well, maybe three. The obvious one is just like that signets are the combination of the dragon and the rider. I've basically rejected that, which is a separate problem. That's a me problem. That's like not saying that that's true. Then there's like the Irid problem, which is, are Irid signets different? Like, are Irids gifting signets and all of the other signets are exactly what we think? Or are dragons just sketchy about signets in general and are all signets gifts? And what you just said about that quote makes me like, that lends itself towards the latter, I think. But I don't know.
Okay, well, this ties nicely into my second corrections and omissions, which I wasn't even thinking about when I did it, but now that I did. All right, so this gets back. Okay, so now I'm going to do the Leothan quote that we love, right? And you, the male, lowers his gaze, our very hope, have handed this human something far more dangerous to wield, haven't you? We've talked about, Violet says she developed dreamwalking because she missed Andarna. We have called bullshit on that. It's a dreamless sleep. It doesn't make any sense. The Irids imply, as we were just talking about with the gift, gifts can be given intentionally. Right? Mm-hmm. So Andarna, in theory, gave Violet dreamwalking intentionally. I am wondering, this is not based off a ton of evidence. I am wondering, and so maybe it should be a pre-cog theory, but we're going to put it in here anyway. Do you think that Andarna knew that Aaric was going to be a pre-cog and she was working with Aaric to give Violet the dreamwalking signet. It doesn't totally work because Aaric is not yet a pre-cog at this point in time, so like it doesn't really work. But like was the dreamwalking more intentional than we are led to believe? Like, because as we've said before, like this dreamless sleep thing, this doesn't make any sense. This doesn't add up. And we talked about during dreams, right, that maybe Berwyn has been gifted this signet by the Irids and they needed to counter it, basically, to have the balance.
Yeah.
So I'm wondering if Aaric was like somehow involved here. And we know, and I mean, this one's actually really crazy. The more I think about it, the less I think it makes sense. But
I think that the part of what you said about Andarna knowing things that Aaric knows, and Aaric and Andarna maybe working like in league somehow, whether intentionally or unintentionally, I actually believe that, and it comes up, I think, in either this episode or the next one. Could Aaric have influenced Andarna's choice of dreamwalking? I find that one more difficult.
Well, yeah, because he hasn't. So it is funny. I went back and looked. The first time Violet manifests the dreamwalking, the last thing that has happened is that she has had a conversation with Aaric.
Right. Yeah.
So like those two things are like right next to each other. But he says, I can't wait for threshing because then my dad can't try to get me out of this school. Right.
Yeah.
So like threshing hasn't happened yet. He hasn't manifested yet. Even if Andarna is like, okay, he's going to be a pre-cog.
Maybe Andarna knew something.
Yeah.
That would have like about him or otherwise that would have influenced it. I don't know. I need to think more about that before I have an intelligent reaction. Okay. All right. Any other omissions or social media shoutouts from you?
Not for this one.
Okay. I have an omission and a social media shout out. So the omission that I wanted to add was actually based off of a comment. So it kind of is both. It's kind of a social media shout out as well. We talked in a prior episode, actually you brought up that there's a quote in which Berwyn says, I will hunt you to the ends of the continent and beyond.
Yeah.
And so you pointed out, does this mean that there's magic beyond the continent that Venin can survive off of? Because like as of right now, we don't have a world in which Venin can survive without magic, and beyond the continent, there is not much magic that we've seen.
Yeah, there's definitely some. Like we know there's some. Some of you commented like, oh, but what about Zahilna? I'm like, yeah, okay, yeah.
So someone in our comments pointed out, and I totally agree with this, the Barrens are drained. So this problem, in a way, already presents itself in that the Venin occupy mostly drained land. We also know that Venin stole daggers, and that the alloy has been a thing for a while, even before it was being used in daggers. Could the Venin have been using alloy to sustain themselves elsewhere? And we know that alloy can sustain Venin because Xaden uses it. He drains Violet's conduit in the Isles, and Jack also uses Violet's conduit to sustain himself. I don't know whether we've seen that Venin can imbue, but is this how they've survived? Like, have they basically found a way to either imbue things and use them later, or have they allied themselves with certain riders so that they can take stored power reserves elsewhere and stay alive? Like, I think that is very much a possibility.
We got a similar comment, and I was just like, no, they're using they're using the daggers to kill dragons. That's why they're stealing the daggers. But I
don't know that that's why they stole the daggers, but I'm more just pointing out they have stuff that could store power.
Right.
For them.
So, but the thing is, right, like, yeah, they do have to re-imbue the alloy. So, like, how are they doing that? How is that working? That's my question, because if they're in the Barrens and there is no magic to do that, like, my understanding, and I do think this matters for the conversation we're going to have today, is like, there is no magic in the Barrens. If a dragon goes to the Barrens, it is the same as them flying across the ocean where there is no magic. Like, it's not like you bring it's not like you bring a dragon to the Barrens and suddenly there's magic, right? Like, so yeah, I don't know. This is a big question, I think. Like, how are the Venin surviving in the Barrens when there's nothing there? It might be alloy. I like the theory that it's the water more, honestly.
Yeah. And then I have a social media shout out. This is a little bit of a longer one, but I'll try and keep it snappy. This is actually technically an email. I don't know if that counts as social media. It's an email shout out.
This is the email you wouldn't let me read.
Yeah, this is the email I asked you not to read. It's not that crazy now that I'm reading it back, but I think it's super interesting because I think we don't have all the answers now, but I think we're being set up for learning more in later books. So we have talked about Isaac Mairi before, and Abby, you've theorized that his contribution could have been teaching the Venin runes, and for some reason, off the back of that, he was privately executed. So for our listeners who are catching up or just who want a refresher, Isaac Mairi is Liam's father. He was not on the death scrolls from Chaldeer from the executions after the Tirish Rebellion. And so Violet was like, wait a second, like your father was executed? I had no idea because I read every single name on those death scrolls. And Liam tells Violet that he was executed in private and that Liam still had to watch. We got an email from Kirsten asking about the battle at Resin and the crate in the tower that had the Mairi family crest on it. I apparently totally blacked that out, and I also kind of conflated it with the lore, which was described as a small iron box. So I went back, I reread this chapter. I unfortunately had to reread Liam's death, so thank you so much, Kirsten, for that emotional trauma. But basically, there was a crate of something marked with the Mairi family crest in an outbuilding on the other side of the road during the Battle of Resin. And Dee tells Tarn about it. D? Should we look this up?
I actually did look up all the dragons' names, but I didn't think we'd need D, so I didn't look at that one.
Day tells Tarn about it, so that's how Tarn finds out about it. And Day relays that it is, quote, highly unstable, and pauses as he relays that information. Long story short, Violet and Tarn cleverly light up this building and blow up the material in that crate as an offensive move, and we hear no more about it. I hypothesize, and I say this because it's not over, but I think it's really likely that this crate had Maorsite in it,
definitely.
which is an explosive material that we learn about in Iron Flame. What do we know about Maorsite? It's an ore, but it is not used to make alloy. It can be explosive, both raw or imbued. Sloane is the one who reveals to us that it's called Maorsite.
And it's so close to Mairi.
Right, correct. We use it in Arrowhead's other weaponry. It comes up like a few times casually throughout the series. I think it's super interesting that Maorsite was found in Krovla with Liam's family crest on it, and Liam died in this battle. I think Maorsite could have been a discovery by Liam's father or somehow connected to Liam's father's death and how he died. I don't have like a put my finger on this, like this is what I think happened, but I feel like we're being set up for the Mairi family was super freaking important to the Tirish Rebellion in like big ways. Like his mother protected the entire Tirish population effectively with these runes. Was his father the discoverer, creator of Maorsite? It's literally named after them.
Yeah.
And there's actually something that happens even later, like in the chapters that we're about to review, towards the end of Onyx Storm, where it could actually be more than just an explosive, because when Theophany pins Violet against the ground, Violet thinks that the Maorsite hack is going to explode, and it doesn't.
Yeah.
So I think Maorsite is connected to Isaac Mairi or Liam's family just in general, and I think it's more than just an explosive material.
I think you're right. Well, and we left out that it also, did we talk about this? That his death, Mary's death, also comes up with Talia in Hedotus. So it is talked about twice across two different books. Like that is always like a, hey, pay attention. This is important situation. I like it. I have no notes. I think you're right. I think we'll find out more. My only thing is I think Maorsite is Maor and Mairi is Mair.
Yeah, but Orsite is a common ending of a
This is actually funny. This is similar. Word construction gets into my Pre-cog theory for, well, it's not for this episode. It's for the next episode. Well, whatever. But I think it's important. I actually think now that this has been kind of pointed out to me, Rebecca is doing something interesting with like etymology here, which is super fun. Definitely. Maybe, or maybe she's not. I don't know.
Our theme of this entire podcast is maybe it's something, maybe it's literally
maybe
nothing.
It's nothing. Yeah.
Okay, let's get into it. How did you feel about the ending?
I loved it. I hated it. I loved it. The fact that I could feel so devastated about, I mean, let's be real. I read these books in 3 weeks, right? So like people, not real people, obviously, but like things I did not know about 3 weeks ago. And I felt like fucking gutted. I felt like a friend had died.
Yeah.
I think it was amazing. And I love that we're going so dark. I love it. Like we're not chickening out. We're not walking back. We are fucking going into the darkness. And I am so here. I'm so happy that we're doing that. Like I'm so sick of stories where it's like, okay, it's all going to be okay. Like for a different series that we will talk about eventually, when characters die, there's certain times where characters die and you're like, oh, well, I already know they're not staying dead. It's going to be fine, right?
Yeah.
I don't think that's what's happening. Okay, and I know we might be on opposite sides of this. I do think Xaden will be okay. I do believe that. Like, I do believe that, but I love that we are, this is the arc, right? This is the story. It's going to be getting Xaden back, and I'm all fucking here for it. I think it's so brave. I think it's so good. I'm just love it. And I hate it, but I love it.
Yeah.
What about you?
When I finished this book, one was the first one to finish it out of anybody.
Yeah, you were alone in your grief.
I was alone, and I finished it, I think, like later on a weeknight, like maybe like 11 or 11, I don't know. So I had nobody to talk to about what I was going through. And already, like the first time I read Onyx Storm, I was just in a constant state of like, what the fuck is going on? Literally, what is going on? And for anybody who read the physical books, you know that this happens at the bottom of a page. Like, the last line is at the bottom of a page, and I turned the page and I saw acknowledgements. And I just stared at the ceiling and was like, I can't fucking believe that Rebecca ended this book in this way. I agree with you. I think overall, she definitely does not spare our feelings at all. I enjoy that about her writing. I think it's very bold. The ending of this book, I think, is super, super bold. And it's definitely keeping me hooked. But God, I was miserable. Like, miserable. And had nobody to call, nobody to talk to. It was just like, I am just sitting in this right now.
But here's
Probably
my thing.
One of the worst, like, sitting in a book post-ending feelings I've had ever.
The fact that these books, which I will admit before I read them, I absolutely wrote off as stupid dragon sex books, right? Like, I felt that way, having not read them.
Like, never have sex, so I don't know why. They have to do it once.
But like, the fact that these books could make me feel this way, I was dumbfounded. Yeah. I was like, I never thought I would be on this like emotional journey here.
Yeah.
And I think we're all feeling it. I think we're all still feeling it. So I wanted to ask you this. I know we had this question prep, but having done all this research for the end of Onyx Storm episodes that we're recording, which I'm so excited about, do you still feel, I know you felt hopeless. Do you still feel hopeless, or do you feel like there's hope?
I don't feel hopeless, but I feel like we're gonna get darker. Like, this is 3 of 5. So I think our lowest point is actually going to be like mid or second half of book 4. And I do think that we will find some relief in the ending, but I also think, I keep in mind, right, that Rebecca is a contemporary author. So I also think there's a way in which this series ends in some like resolution that is devastatingly close to modern day, like that this all goes away.
Oh, like you're like this ends with no magic and no dragons and yeah.
So I have hope that maybe we'll get a Xaden Violet plotline that we feel okay about in the end. But I also think she could literally just rip our guts out. In this series.
I mean, I don't think there's any way there's not a devastating sacrifice. Like, I don't think there's any way that we already know, right? Not everyone's going to make it to the end.
Yeah.
I do think Xaden and Violet make it to the end. Otherwise, what's the fucking point?
Yeah, honestly. Yeah. I know she doesn't care, clearly, because like we're here, right? Talking about this ending that devastated all of us. But I do think this entire fandom would riot.
No, exactly. She has us all in the palm of her hand.
Yeah.
She can do anything. And if she doesn't end it with them together, she will lose that. And like,
I do think if she changes this from 5 books to more, I will. And it doesn't, in the 5 books, doesn't result in something okay, I will lose my mind. Like, I will like riot.
Right. So if I thought you were saying like if it's like an ACOTAR where the 5th book is like a different story.
I'm okay with an ACOTAR because it would mean that the 5th book like resolves in something.
Right.
Okay. Shall we deep dive?
You ready? I'm excited. I'm really excited.
All right. I'm nervous. Let's start with a recap of timeline of events with no theories involved.
Great.
Abby, would you like to take us through it? I'm curious where you started because I started quite far back.
Okay, I started on chapter 65. Where did you start?
Oh.
I know I wrote a note that said let's start farther back, but I didn't do it. So do you want to give us a recap of earlier chapter?
Okay. I'm going to try to keep this super brief because I do feel like this whole conflict starts when Garrick comes back with one of Tana's scales and Mira.
Yeah, I agree.
So I'm starting with Garrick coming back with one of Taina's scales and telling Violet that she and Xaden have to come, along with Xaden's brother, or Theophany will kill Mira. They are then faced with the fact that Mira is being held hostage by Theophany, Drathus is being attacked, and they need to protect the pass. Like, those are the 3 objectives and the 3 places where people are kind of dispersed and stationed. So Xaden looks to Brennan and is like, you're my tactician, you need to give me a way to accomplish all 3. Brennan says that Violet and Xaden are basically the reasons he can't do that, because Violet is going to choose everyone over herself, and Xaden is going to choose her over everyone. So then Violet is forced to choose an objective by her brother, and she chooses killing Theophany. So Brennan decides to send Violet, Xaden, Bodhi, and Brennan to save Mira. Note that Melgren has already called this battle a loss, meaning he can see the outcome at this point, and there's only 2 Rebellion relics attending, so that kind of all checks out. Like, if only the 4 of them are there, Mira's dead. Okay. They arrive, and Theophany has Taina trapped, Mira held at knife point, and says, you didn't bring the brother that I wanted, basically. Theophany also mentions that Berwyn is the one who wants him, so that implies, like, they're working together, which, to this point, I feel like they had been kind of in conflict.
Yeah.
Then Garrick shows up with the Ribosted chest and Jack, and Violet's like, he's here, like, okay, like, we fulfilled our end of the bargain, let her go. And Theophany's like, wait a second, I said I would let Drathus stand, not let Mira survive, and then slits Mira's throat. Which I think is an interesting choice, because why slit her throat instead of drain her? I don't know. Sloane then shows up with a package from Aaric. She is our 3rd Rebellion relic, right? And Dane on her tail. And so Sloane is able to siphon energy from Dane to Brennan so that Brennan can save Mira, and Xaden holds everything back with a wall of shadow while this is all happening.
So that didn't even occur to me. So Melgren sees up to the point where Mira's throat is slit and assumes she's a loss. Yeah.
Once Mira is saved, Xaden then leaves her and Bodhi, who are charged with fighting Theophany, and he's like, I have to go protect the pass. Brennan was also supposed to stay with Violet and Bodhi, but Bodhi suggests he go, take Mira with him. So then they're faced with, oh shit, Taina won't wake. So then Violet sends Tairn away to carry Taina to safety. And Bodhi's like, you just sent away our biggest dragon. Sweet. Theophany shows up, and a bunch of stuff happens here, but important points. Bodhi learns he can't counter her. He's like, okay, my signet does not work on Theophany. Theophany's kind of taunting Bodhi a bit. This is where we learn that she's a storm wielder for the first time, and that she was Lilith's balanced, not Violet's. Violet then sends Bodhi away. She's like, you cannot handle this. Your signet is effectively useless here. Bodhi tries to resist, but his dragon grabs him and flies away while he's like kicking and screaming. I kind of picture a toddler being taken away in the middle of a tantrum. Violet expects to die from Theophany slamming her spine into the ground. Basically, all of this here is Violet just expecting to be killed by Theophany. But she realizes, like, I need to stay here and hold off Theophany. And then we cut over to Rhee's POV. Rhee has her squad, with the exception of Imogen, Quinn, and Violet. Those 3 are elsewhere. And Rhee and the squad, the partial squad, are charged with protecting the pass. She and Firga, I looked up how to pronounce that name, I really hope it's right, guys, basically just hold them off and tell Riddick to focus. That's like the crux of Rhee's POV chapter. She does have a dragon use their rider's farsight to see something, which I want to talk about later. She specifically has...
Yeah, she does.
Yeah. She has her dragon ask another dragon to ask their rider what they see.
Well, not everyone knows about the dragon sight. We'll get there, I guess.
Not everyone knows about the dragon sight, which I do want to talk about. Because they all have dragons. We get a nice understanding of Rhee and Firga's interactions in this chapter, and that Rhee is really being conditioned to lead. But Firga is not a leader. She is looking to relay Rhee's orders in this chapter. So it's a nice, like, we get a little sense of their dynamic, but not much, like, plot-wise really happens here. But then we're back to Violet, who has come to terms, once again, with dying, overturning. Theophany seems genuinely surprised when Violet is like, I will meet Malik before I turn. Like, F you, kill me. Theophany's like, really? So Violet frees herself from her battle with Theophany. She and Xaden do a cute little check-in with each other. So at this point, we know, like, Xaden's still in combat somewhere. And then Violet and Theophany kind of lock into combat. This is where there's a big battle between the two of them. Theophany is trying to get Violet to turn. Violet ends up surviving by climbing on top of a wyvern carcass, avoiding being drained. Sigale swoops in and saves Violet, and basically punts her over to Tairn, and then return.
Just imagining in this scene Violet being just tossed through the air.
Literally. By like a pissed off, we've already discussed how much I adore Sigale. By like a pissed off Sigale that I think at this point says, you are an inconvenience for which there is no adequate measurement. Like, love her.
Yeah,
Adore
someone
her.
on social media was like, oh, this was like the threshing video clip. They were like, oh, Sigale was trying to protect Violet for Xaden. I was like, Sigale hates Violet. Like,
She's
no.
growing on her, but she's annoyed for sure. So then Taryn and Violet are reunited. They start to game plan. Things get fun again. Taryn mentions that he can see more than 100 wyvern between them and Theophany. They are very much still charged with occupying or killing Theophany. Taryn also admits, like, Sigale has withdrawn from me at this point. I don't know. She and Xaden are going hard somewhere. Like, I don't know what's happening.
Yeah.
with
And
them.
Theophany is to the east. So
Yeah.
Theophany has retreated to the east with all the other Venin. The Wyvern are between. So Taryn and Violet are still in the north. Theophany is to the east. The Wyvern are between. The 100 Wyvern are between Theophany and Violet.
Yes. Violet then absolutely fucks up some wyvern. 39 to be exact.
I know!
literally counted. I was like, what is going on here? She's pulling multiple
I know.
bolts of lightning from the sky and hitting wyvern.
No, I also counted.
And
I was like,
Taryn
holy
is,
shit.
like,
She took out almost
tallying.
half of them by herself.
Which I find so fun because, like, we haven't gotten to this part yet, but later in Imogen's chapters, like, Imogen's keeping count of Glaine's kills and, like, Taryn is keeping count of Violet's. And I think that's so cute. So Violet then is starting to feel herself burn out because she's literally murdered half the wyvern almost. But cools herself down with some water. She's good. Then Aaric shows up with the advance party from Zahilna, and he's flying from the direction of the Arctic.
Yeah.
Sorry, what's
From
the-
south.
From
The
south-
Arctile Ocean.
Arctile
The
Ocean, yes,
yeah.
thank you. Which consists of 1,000 soldiers and their horses. They landed somewhere else by accident. Aaric brought them here.
Classic
Violet's then
Zahilna.
refocusing herself. She's like, I'm recommitting. I'm going to kill Theophany. But then we cut over to Imogen. So Imogen is charged with defending Drathus. So I think these POV chapters are basically our insight into what's happening in the other places where people are stationed.
I do have a complaint about this ending.
Sure.
I think Rebecca was unnecessarily cryptic about the wards going up on Drathus. Like,
100%.
she never, there's no reason for it to be a secret. Like, the whole thing they're trying to do in Drathus is imbue enough alloys in daggers so that they can extend the wards to Drathus like they do throughout Navarre. That is what is happening in Drathus.
Yeah.
That is why there's an armory. That is why Quinn is trying to protect it. And she never fucking explains it. And I don't know why. It's so dumb. Like,
Yeah.
Anyway.
I don't know either.
Like, it's a basic plot point. It makes sense. There doesn't need to be secrets around it, but cool. We put it together, Rebecca. We figured it out. Maybe we didn't.
It almost feels like there was some, like, portion of a chapter where Brennan actually explains what everyone's going to do that was just, like, completely cut. So,
yeah, maybe. I don't.
But then we cut over to Imogen. Imogen is chasing after Bodhi in this crazy vortex of wind that Theophany has dredged up.
Yeah, I think this is really important. So Theophany has created a tornado. Taryn orders obviously Taryn grounds the riot. Taryn says, nobody fly. And the last thing Violet sees above Drathus is Kor. I think you say his name Kor. Kor flying up with Bodhi to attack Wyvern. And it's like, fucking Bodhi can't stay where he's supposed to.
Yeah, he can't.
Yeah.
And also, his dragon is getting, like, messed up.
Fucked up. Yeah.
Yeah. So Imogen bolts after him. Everyone's supposed to be grounded at this point. Imogen flies after him. We learn that they're kind of running low on weaponry and they need to imbue daggers faster to extend those wards. So Imogen is trying to save Bodhi, but Bodhi's dragon is getting really messed up. He's got like a hole in his wing. He's got a gash in his chest. Dane also launches into battle on Calf. Imogen takes note of it. She's like, oh, Dane's breaking all the rules now. So Dane also ignored this order to be grounded, or Calf did. One of them, both of them. Imogen and Glane then just start picking off Wyvern, counting their kills, and then they're called to go save the tower. So Imogen and Glane gun for that tower. Imogen dismounts to go save Quinn. Imogen runs into Dane, which is interesting because we just saw him in the sky. She saves him using her earth wielding in that moment where she's suddenly like turning a shield into stone. And Dane is like, we're going to talk about that later, to protect them from some flames. And then Dane...
It's a Venin.
It's a Venin fire wielding.
So I guess the fire wielding is bad.
Yeah. Okay. Protects them from flames. Then Dane runs off to keep defending the tower. Imogen then finds Quinn fighting multiple Venin with her astral projection, which is so badass. And unfortunately, Quinn gets stabbed between her ribs and dies in Imogen's arms. It's a very sad scene. Recommend, but don't recommend.
It is. The first time I read it, I didn't cry. And like the second time I read it, I was like, oh, I'm sad.
Yeah.
I'm really sad.
Yeah, sad. Actually, I didn't cry until Garrick showed up, which was really sad.
I know.
So Garrick shows up. Quinn is dead in Imogen's arms, tries to get Imogen to come with him in a rather tender moment, but Imogen is understandably just like losing it. So he grabs both Imogen and Quinn's bodies.
Just picks them both up.
picks them up. Someone in our comment section called Garrick the human barge. So funny to me because that is exactly how I picture him. Garrick shows up, gathers up Quinn and Imogen, and distance wields
to the new armory. Yeah,
inside,
somewhere within Dreyfus.
Yep, where Trissa and Felix are re-imbuing and preparing weapons.
Right. And this is where Rebecca is just like being so cryptic, and I don't really think there's a reason for it. It would be very easy to say we're trying to extend the wards to Dreyfus.
Yeah. This is when Garrick reveals that he's close to being drained, needs to go find a way to do something, and then that's kind of the last time that we see Garrick, I think. Then we jump back to Violet and Taryn, who are fighting, and Taryn feels Sigale get captured. Then Taryn himself gets captured, and he and Violet have this really kind of paralyzing fall where Violet's like, tuck in your wings, and then they survive the fall. The fall is under a net, to be clear, so they get netted. Violet frees herself from the net.
Somehow they knew exactly where Taryn was going to be.
Right.
And Sigale.
And dropped a net from the sky.
Oh, that's interesting. I always pictured it as like hidden in the cliff and then like spring loaded. Like boop. But yeah. I don't know.
Interesting. I kind of pictured Wyvern orchestrating it, but I could be totally wrong.
Either could be right. It's probably Wyvern. Yours makes more sense.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Anyways, they get captured. Violet frees herself from the net, at least using some of her emergency runes that, thank God, actually work. And Taryn is working to free himself, but is taking too long, so Violet goes to distract Theophany. So she then kind of is like, how do I occupy Theophany? She taunts her about Umbriel. This is when Theophany reveals that she feels pain, never being allowed to return to Umbriel and the Temple of Dune. And this is the infamous quote. She says it would sever the very thing that kept her untouchable all these years. She also says, like, I'd rather be a god than serve one. Then Dreyfus is enveloped in darkness, and the valley that Violet is in. Everywhere is enveloped in darkness. And we know then somewhere that Xaden is channeling from the source. Andarna shows up, distracts Theophany. Violet holds a bolt of lightning live from the sky, like an absolute badass. I'm like picturing the scene in my head and getting chills. She's literally just holding down a bolt to keep enough light to be able to see Theophany. And she stabs her. She strikes in the dark. Theophany bleeds, she desiccates, and in doing this, Violet realizes Aaric is a Pre-cog. She releases the bolt, she collapses. That's the last we see of Violet in this particular scene.
I think she realizes it as the darkness is sweet. She realizes it before she strikes Theophany, right?
Yes.
Like, I think she realizes it on Taryn's back.
Yeah. As she strikes Theophany, like as she realizes, oh, this dagger is going to kill Theophany, she realizes Aaric is a Pre-cog.
And this is also the note where we get, I pray she does not have to use it to avoid reacquainting herself.
Yes.
The reacquainting.
Reacquainting. Yeah. This is where we get the note from the high priestess of Umbriel, to Aaric, but seemingly about Violet, where she says, from one servant of Dune to another, a gift from one servant of Dune to another. I pray that she will not have to use it to avoid reacquainting herself with the other that curries her favor. It's really upsetting that I didn't have that written down anywhere and I could basically recount it.
Yeah, me too.
Concerning. Then we switch over to Xaden's POV.
There's one major character we've left out here, and that is Jack.
Oh, so it's also Jack. Bodhi was on his hands and knees retching somewhere.
Sorry, yes. Last time we see Bodhi, he's on his hands and fucking knees, retching in the middle of Dreyfus. So we're told Jack is in the Ribestad chest and has been returned to Orisha by Garrick, not to Bazgaiath, to Orisha.
Yep.
So background and setting for the Xaden POV chapter. I know we don't usually do this, but so much happens in this chapter. I think it's important to kind of set the scene. So they are at a hidden sun-soaked canyon south of Dreyfus. I went back when I was rereading these chapters, and I thought the most important thing was going to be the timeline. How do these events line up with each other? I now think that's actually not true. It's the geography. It's where everyone was on the map that really matters. So for our listeners, just to kind of draw this out, Dreyfus is in the middle here. To the west of Dreyfus is the Cliffs of Draelor. They're trying to evacuate the city through the Cliffs of Draelor so that everyone can get up to Orisha and be within the wards and be within safety. The wards only extend to the Cliffs of Draelor at this point. They are not in Dreyfus. So we have the Cliffs of Draelor on the west, we have Dreyfus in the middle. Where Theophany has taken Mira, where Violet and Brennan and Xaden and Bodhi land, is north of Dreyfus at first. So that's important. So that crew up here is north of Dreyfus. Dreyfus is in the middle. The Venin are attacking from the east, from the Barrens. So we have north, we have Violet, Bodhi, Xaden, Garrick shows up eventually, Theophany, Mira, etc. Brennan. We have Rhys, Sawyer, and Riddick. We have our Iron Squad on the Cliffs of Draelor and people trying to evacuate the city. And then we have the Venin coming from the east. Chapter 65 takes place south of Drathis. So this is the first time we've been south of Drathis. This is the first time we've gotten action here. So it's kind of important to think about. I think it's less about the time. I think it's more about where people could get and when. And right before chapter 65, where we have left people, Imogen, Bodhi, and Garrick are in Drathis. They're in the city. Brennan and the Iron Squad are on Cliffs of Draelor. So Brennan has taken Tyna to the Cliffs of Draelor to get him healed and everything. Venin are still coming from the east. Theophany and Violet and Taryn are now in the mountains northeast of Drathis. So everyone has left the field north of Drathis. Xaden and Berwyn and others are in the cliffs south of Drathis. Did I get that right? Did I miss anything? That was all from memory.
Yeah, I think you got it. Yeah.
All right. So we're on a hidden sun-soaked canyon south of Drathis. Not a sunburned field. Still, I know we talked about the dreams last week. Not a sunburned field, not anything we've seen in any of the dreams. We're not on a field. We're on a hidden sun-soaked canyon south of Drathis. There are 2 Venin standing guard at the mouth of the canyon in quote-unquote ridiculous robes. Sigale is 20 feet in front of Xaden. Panchek, our traitorous asshole Panchek, is also on the canyon with his dragon. His dragon is also in a net. So Sigale and Panchek's dragon, whose name we never learn, both captured in nets. There is mention of a brother. We do not know where the brother is at this point in time, but we know there is a brother somewhere. He is around.
Well, there's a brother next to an unconscious dragon.
Yeah, seemingly close to Panchek. There's an unconscious dragon lying in the valley beyond the canyon, guarded by 7 wyverns. So in total, we have 6 people, 2 Venin guards, Xaden, Berwyn, Panchek, the brother. So that's 6 people. 3 dragons, Sigale, Panchek's dragon, unconscious dragon in the valley. We have 7 wyvern guarding the dragon. This is going to become important. I don't know if it's important for you. It's important for me. So that's kind of our setting. In terms of the things that actually happen in this chapter, Xaden sees Berwyn kill Panchek's dragon with an alloy-hilted dagger. And then Berwyn says, you see what just happened? That's what's about to happen to your dragon. Right? So then he channels to save Sigale. He says, fuck, that's not going to happen. So he channels to save Sigale. Sigale says, you have resisted his ploys all afternoon. Do not channel to save me now.
We have Xaden say that there's only one path that leaves Sigale alive.
Right. So we have the people, the dragons, and the wyvern at the cannon. Xaden and Sigale. Sigale is in a net. We have Panchek and his dragon in a net. We have a couple interesting things happen. So we have a couple interesting quotes here I just want to read. I think they're going to be important later. The bond between Berwyn and me is the kind that should never exist. And now that my sage has another sibling he can use against me, I'm screwed. All right, so we have the second brother, the other sibling. I glance past Berwyn, past Sigale and the Venin to my new brother and the unconscious dragon lying in the valley beyond the canyon, guarded by 7 wyvern. How could he do this, choose this after watching me stumble and fall over the last 5 months? How could he willingly walk the path I fought like hell to leave? He's the last person I ever would have expected to turn, and yet here we are. So that's Xaden's reflections on the brother. Then we have Panchek say, I'm the only one who can give you access to your son. And Berwyn says, I have another. And then he stabs Panchek's dragon. Panchek's dragon dies from the alloy-hilted dagger. This is Xaden's oh fuck moment. What the fuck? And then Berwyn says to Xaden, did you see what just happened? That's what's about to happen to your dragon. This is when Xaden channels from the ground and his shadows come out thick as tar and black as ink, which is interesting. I don't think they've ever been described as thick as tar before. That's kind of a new thing. Shadows plant the daggers in the chests of the 2 Venin standing guard. Shadows drag Berwyn from Sigale and knock the Venin unconscious and knocks out the new brother. It kills the wyvern, rips the runestones out of them, and then it goes to Drathis. Kills every wyvern in Drathis, tears the net from Sigale, tears the heart out of the wyvern who has Dane and Kath backed into a corner, rushes over Imogen as she looks to the sky. And the last we saw Imogen, she said the sky darkens. Not clear to me if this is all happening concurrently. I kind of don't think it is. We can get into that later. But it rushes over Imogen as she looks to the sky. Xaden shoves Theophany to the ground and caresses Violet with his shadows. Xaden remembers that he loves Violet. We get no weight. Xaden lifts his hands up. And then we have a line about pulling back from the magic that burns because the wards have been extended to Drathis. And the wards were always up in Orisha. That's important, too.
Yep.
All right. I thought it would be fun. Now we're getting into the deep dive. We've done the recap. We don't usually do recaps. I hope you guys enjoyed that recap. I know it was maybe not my best recording. Ronnie, I think you did a fucking great job. Thank you for that. We're getting into deep dive. Ronnie, I thought it would be fun if our first question is, who is the brother? I thought it would be fun if we just went 3, 2, 1, and then we said, who is the brother? All
Oh
right.
no, but I structured this as all the people I think could be the brother and why not. Hold on, let me decide quickly.
Okay, you decide, because I also did that. So
I need
no,
a
let's do
moment.
it your way. Let's do it
No,
your
no,
way.
I need a moment. I think it would be fun. Okay, I'm gonna caveat it with I think multiple people have turned by the end of this book, but I will say who I think the brother is.
Okay, ready? 3, 2, 1.
Aaric.
Bodhi. Yes. All right, let's
Yeah,
discuss.
I think Bodhi turned. Let's discuss. Okay, so who is the brother? I think so. I listed 4 people, but really only 3 that I have substantial stuff on.
I'm gonna be honest with you. You've just rocked my world. Aaric wasn't even on my list, and he fucking should have been. I'm an idiot.
Okay, well, I have stuff on him for and against. So I'll just list off all the people on my list, and then we can each do our reasons it could, reasons it couldn't be. Does that work? Okay. The first person I had is Bodhi. So reasons it could be Bodhi. We last see Bodhi on his hands and knees in the town square retching. Hands and knees could imply you're just retching, but also could imply that you're channeling from the earth. Seems reasonable. His dragon is also unaccounted for, but we know he was getting literally taken apart because Imogen was flying after him. We saw there was a hole in his wing, a wound in his chest. So we know his dragon was in dire straits, and we know that the new brother has an unconscious dragon lying somewhere around. Bodhi knew for all 5 months. That's an important thing that we learn about the brother. And also, like, all of the subsequent things that happen make sense if Bodhi is Venin and cannot be the Duke of Tyrrendor. Xaden says it's the only way after he sees the new brother, right? So, well, yeah, it is if Bodhi is turned. So I think there's a lot of pros for Bodhi. There's reasons, though, that I think it's hard to believe that it is Bodhi. Xaden says things with a lot of disgust. He's like, the one who now thinks himself my brother. Sounds like it's referring to the new brother, but this doesn't fit for Bodhi. Like, Bodhi has always thought of himself as Xaden's brother. Like, they have been close relatives, they're cousins, but they've been basically brothers.
So I think, and we can get it, I know we have another question of the one who, I think we have another question, the one who thinks himself
we
the
do.
brother.
So I knew that you thought those were 2 different people.
I think they're 2 different people. I actually don't think one of them is a person at all. We'll get there.
Okay. He's also not confirmed missing in the book, so we know that Garrick is confirmed missing from the last chapter, but we don't get Bodhi as confirmed missing, so just a point that, like, he may still be around. Xaden says that he's the last person he'd expect to turn, which I think is surprising for Bodhi. Like, I feel like Xaden should fully expect Bodhi to be reckless and follow in his path. Like, I would expect Bodhi to be like, yeah, I'm gonna, like, if Xaden's gonna go inside man with the Venin and fuck up the Venin, like, same. And also, Xaden knocks him out. So Xaden knocks the new brother and Berwyn out at the end of this chapter, which seems unwise if he wants to fight alongside the person who turned.
Okay.
What is your case for Bodhi?
Okay, so I laid it out like you did. I'm like, okay, the person who has done this has known about Xaden for the past 5 months. Right. So basically that's Violet, Imogen, Garrick, or Bodhi. I forgot about Aaric. You are right. Aaric has also known for the past 5 months. We just don't talk about it as much because Violet didn't know that. The problems with the first person narrator. Anyway. All right. So basically the options are Garrick and Bodhi, right? As far as I can tell.
Yeah.
Arguments for Bodhi, as you said, can't stop Theophany's storm wielding. So he feels that he is not enough. He does not have enough power. Yep. Violet specifically says maybe you can't counter their power. Like Venin's power, so maybe he thinks, okay, but if I become Venin, then I can counter Venin
then I
power.
have that same magic.
And that is a very powerful signet to have.
Yep.
As previously mentioned in our recap, Bodhi is such a fucking brat in this battle. Bodhi is the worst. He will not listen to orders. He will not go where he's supposed to.
Toddler. Yeah,
he's being a fucking toddler. He literally, like, he does not listen to Taryn's orders. Can you imagine not listening to Taryn? Like, are you fucking stupid?
Yeah.
He fights against the Wyvern. Kor is in a really bad state at the end of this, as we mentioned.
Yeah. He just keeps sending him into battle. It's so sad.
And he keeps, like, he put Imogen in danger. And Imogen is even like, Bodhi does not understand. Bodhi does not recognize the importance of his place in all this.
Survival.
Like, right. If Xaden goes, Bodhi is the only hope we have, or they're going to put a Navarian nobility on the throne. And she's like, and I will fucking die before I see that happen. So, like, Bodhi, just in general, does not fucking get it. She literally says, I grit my teeth. He doesn't get it. If we lose both him and Riorson, Tyrrendor falls to whomever the king appoints. I'd rather die than see a Navarian aristocrat on the burned throne Mom and Katrina died defending.
Shush.
All right. Kor is wounded, as we discussed, has a slash on his chest. Imogen sees him on his hands and knees. My final nail in the coffin for Bodhi is what you mentioned. Xaden says, you saw what happened. It is the only way. this whole book, I know everyone says this whole book is a proposal to Violet. Yes, also no, this whole book is Xaden shoring up his backup plans for Tyrandor. It is Xaden making sure that if he leaves, that Tyrandor is going to be safe. Bodhi was backup plan number 1, but Bodhi has failed. So Violet becomes backup plan number 2, right? And Xaden says it is the only way is marrying Violet and making her Duchess of Tyrandor to make sure that Tyrandor does not fall into Navarian hands. So in my mind, that's kind of the nail in the coffin. That's like, okay, it has to be Bodhi. It can't. And at this point, there's only one brother, right? So at this point, it can't be. It doesn't matter if it's Garrick. If Garrick turns Venin, that's fine. It doesn't matter for the line of succession. Same with Aaric. I'm so curious to hear your thoughts on why Aaric is the brother.
I feel compelled to mention, like, when Xaden says it's the only way, because I feel like people are going to call us out for this. Like, I definitely subscribe to the belief that Xaden still puts Violet above Tyrandor in terms of, like, needing to protect Tyrandor versus Violet. Like, totally think that's true. But I think, and we're going to talk more about, like, what this means. It is the only way. Like, it's the only path now. I do think that, like, probably what Xaden is getting at is like it is the only way to resolve all of this, and protecting and securing Tyrandor is a key piece of that.
Absolutely. And I said that in our Xaden episode too. Right? Like that Tyrandor and protecting Violet are one and the same to him now, I think. I don't think we know the details of that, but he has said, I will put you above Tyrandor. Right. So it either had to be Bodhi protecting Tyrandor or Violet protecting Tyrandor. For whatever reason, that's incredibly important. And this is the only way to do it. And I think this is interesting with Aaric's signet too, because, and this just occurred to me, but I think there were multiple paths here. And Aaric was like, this is what could happen, but this is what has to happen if Bodhi turns. This is what you have to do, right? It is the only way. Xaden says to Sagail, you saw what happened. It is the only way. She glances over her shoulder and you think she'll help. Xaden says, she loves me. She'll help. It comes out with a hell of a lot more certainty than I feel. She promised. And what Violet promised is, and this is when Xaden finds out he's the Duke of Tyrandor way, way back in chapter 6, right? He says, it's not fair and you might hate me for it later, but I need you to make me a promise. His warm hands cup the back of my neck as his eyes search mine. Swear you'll sound the alarm if I go too far, that you'll keep it safe, even if it's from me. Tell me what the king gave you. He takes a deep breath. He gave me back my title and the seat in the scenarium. Holy shit, my lips part. Not just Orisha either. He gave me Tyrandor. Xaden says slowly, like he can't believe it either. So it seems, and I will admit, Rebecca's doing like her normal fuckery where we're dealing with pronouns instead of outright saying things. But it seems that Xaden is calling back to Violet's promise to protect Tyrandor, to keep it safe, even if it's from him. So that, to me, is why it has to be Bodhi, because the line of succession is no longer safe.
Yeah. I mean, I think I would be surprised if Bodhi is not Venin. Like, I agree. I think there's a really strong case for it. Okay, Garrick. So I think reasons that Garrick could be the brother. He is unaccounted for. He's confirmed missing at the end of the book, and he was out of power after rescuing Imogen and walking away. Imogen also asks about him at the end, and so was it her testing them to see whether anyone had found him as Venin? I don't know. But I think it's interesting that she specifically asked about him. We know she's in love with him, but that's a different thing. He knew about Xaden for all 5 months. He also fits that bill. There was some very specific, and you've read this out on this podcast before if anyone's been listening in order, there's some very specific wordplay that could have been construed in a couple ways when Garrick was coming to get Imogen and Quinn, with stone graying under him as he walked.
I reread that passage like 5 times trying to figure it out.
Trying to like understand exactly what was happening. And I think it is very intentional that I still cannot figure out what exactly was happening. I do think we were led to believe that it is the Venin under them draining the stones around.
So it almost seems like, okay, for context for everyone, this is the scene where Imogen goes into the tower, finds Quinn, and the Venin is like, basically Quinn has died. She's basically holding Quinn on the stairs. And the way it is worded, it almost seems like the stones are being drained from both the top and the bottom, kind of. Like, it's very confusing where the draining is coming from. Yeah, it's confusing.
It's confusing. And I know Rebecca at this point. Like, I don't personally know you, Rebecca, if you ever hear this, but like, I feel like,
oh my God, if I ever meet her, oof. Queen.
I feel like I'm catching your style where you're intentionally writing things that make us think it could be something or it could be something else. But yes, there's very specific words about stones graying as Garrick is stepping down the stairs when he's coming to get Imogen and Quinn. And finally, and this is kind of a teaser for our next episode, I really struggle to understand how Violet could have gotten back to Orisha when Taryn is in a cycle of rest and Andarna has a bum wing. So
that's my first question.
Yeah.
How does Violet get back to Orisha?
Yeah. So I think there are ways for sure. We'll talk about all of them in the next episode, but I think there is a strong case for it having been aided by Garrick. And in that case, like Garrick at the end of this battle is completely shot. He has no power left.
Okay. So here's why, and this is going to go a little bit of spoiler, but here's why it can't be, if Garrick is Venin, it can't be Garrick that brought them back. Because the Orishan wards are working and are keeping out the Venin, right? Xaden says the magic that burns. So if Garrick is Venin, he can't be wielding an Orisha. He cannot be the ones that brought them back, which is part of why I don't think Garrick is Venin, actually.
I have a potential explanation for this. I don't know if it's going to hold, but we'll talk about it next episode.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I agree with you. Yeah, the Orishan wards are actually working.
The Orishan wards actually work, unlike the bad Gaiath
ones do not. Yeah. But for anybody who's confused, that magic that burns at the touch, where Xaden's channeling, he says, I fall back at the magic that burns at the touch. We interpret that to be the wards of Orisha that are actually fucking working.
Yeah.
And hurt
so when everyone is like, why are the bad Gaiath wards so fucking bad? Why does nothing work? The Orishan wards have not been fucked with by Venin for, I'm assuming, centuries at this point, and they work correctly, is our theory, is my theory.
Yeah, is our theory, yeah.
Yeah.
Agreed. Reasons it might not be Garrick. Kind of the same as Bodhi. Like, Xaden speaks with this, like, distaste about him. The distaste is a little bit more believable since he and Xaden did not grow up as, like, basically brothers, but they kind of did, right? Like, Garrick was Dan.
Yeah. No, I mean, he calls him Teddy Bear.
Yeah. So, again, I'm not sure that Garrick would be the last person that Xaden would expect to turn. They've been doing things together for their literal entire lives. Xaden knocks him out, but definitely still could be Garrick. I have a hard time disproving, with the exception of what you just brought up. I struggle saying, like, absolutely could not be Garrick.
I'm curious to hear about Aaric, but, like, I'm convinced it's Bodhi because of the succession thing. Like, I think that's the nail. I think that's just the nail in the coffin. I think it has to be Bodhi. And Bodhi's on his fucking hands and knees. Like, that's a pretty, like... Yeah. All right, but tell me about Aaric.
I agree with you. I think, like, the obvious answer, given everything we know, is Bodhi.
Okay, I'm also going to say, this is my only obvious answer for this entire pod and the next pod. So you guys better buckle up, because shit's going to get weird from here.
I feel like I have a lot of I tried to stay pretty reined in on this one. We'll see how that goes.
I didn't. Let's see what happens.
That's kind of normal. Okay, so Aaric. I want to talk about Aaric. He returned with the army from Zahilna, so we know he was around at this time. He could have known about Xaden for a while, given his signet. Like, in my view, as soon as Aaric started manifesting, there had to be some knowledge of Xaden at that point. I also think that this truly would have been the last person Xaden would have expected to turn, because Aaric has had it out for the Venin since literally the second he was allowed to be conscripted anywhere. He came to the Rider Squadron to do something about the Venin. So to me, like, that would be the last person I would expect to turn. And Xaden, given everything. And Xaden, again, talks about his brother like he's annoyed and betrayed, and he knocks him out, and he's like, God, this fucking guy, like, I can't believe he now thinks himself my brother. And we have reason to believe that Xaden and Aaric kind of get along in secret, or that Xaden says he has complicated loyalty towards someone we assume to be Aaric. But Aaric hates Xaden for what he did to his brother Alec. Like, they do not, like, in real life, in front of other people, get along at all.
Yeah.
And really the only reason that I have that might not be Aaric is, like, admittedly just a mental reason for me. The exact same reason Xaden wouldn't expect him to turn. Like, he came out of spite against his family for not doing anything about the Venin. So to become them, unless he goes in knowing that he's going to be able to do something about them, is shocking, right? Like, he's basically giving up his life, and he says, like, I will probably die in this battle. I'll fight and die. So to become Venin, to become immortal, to join that side is challenging. Like, I can see a path, right? Like, to fight from the inside, I can see a path. But
I see what you're saying.
It lines up a bit more for me.
I see what you're saying. In my mind, the one who thinks himself the brother is a different thing. So I think that's
we
why.
should talk about that.
Yeah. I think that's why I'm not on that train. And the other thing is, someone has to stay with Violet. I know we're going to talk about who the 4 riders are missing, the 4 missing riders next time. But someone who knows everything that's been going on has to stay with Violet.
Yeah.
To protect her, right? Yeah. I'm not saying that's Aaric.
Yeah.
But someone has to. They can't just abandon her, right? Yeah. So I think that's just something we should keep in mind. Too.
I also included Riddick in this list because I've seen so many people try and throw Riddick into this mix. I struggle with it again, guys. I can't rationalize it. I know that he feels like he's not enough frequently and like he wants to be in the quest squad and he's like being rebellious in Rhee's chapter, but like...
Well, but Rhee's chapter is also where he freezes a wyvern with his bare hands.
Yeah.
And Rebecca said the person who turns is someone who felt like they weren't enough during the battle.
Yeah.
And I think the only people that fit that bill are Bodhi and Garrick. Yeah. And I guess Aaric could because he was gone for half of it. But we don't ever get his POV. We don't ever get
I mean, now that you say that though, like, and again, I don't watch any of Rebecca's interviews. Unfortunately, not by choice. Now that you say that though, like Aaric did bring back an entire advance army.
Aaric brought back a whole army.
Yeah, he brought an army. So unless he felt that way and so he did that, right? Because he doesn't have a signet that's helpful for battle at all.
Oh my god, he has the most helpful signet for battle.
No, but he's not helpful in combat.
Sure. I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm Team Bodhi. Team Bodhi is the brother.
I'm Team Bodhi. I think Bodhi is Venin at the end of this for sure.
Yeah.
I also kind of think Garrick is, and I also maybe think, I don't know.
All right, let's talk about the one who thinks himself the brother.
Yeah.
I think we need to kind of read this line for line.
Sure.
So I'll go back up to the quotes that I have here. Hold on. Do I have this?
I can easily get it.
Yeah. Okay. Sorry. I do have the whole thing. All right. So the setting of the scene is Xaden has just channeled to save Sigale. He has thrown 2 daggers to the ground, channeled, caught those daggers, stabbed them in the chests of the 2 Venin that are standing guard at the edge of the canyon. So those 2 Venin are gone. That's done. The quote is, and this is kind of a long passage, Shadow drags Berwyn from Sigale and knocks both him and my new brother unconscious. Shadow brings quiet. So Berwyn and the new brother are unconscious, right? Mm-hmm. My soul, this is the scene. My soul departs like pieces of ash from a fire, flaking free and drifting away as power consumes the space it once inhabited. I am no longer on the ice, I am the ice. And still I feed, tunneling deep into the source of magic and surging outward simultaneously, finding the identical heartbeats that mark Wyvern and slicing through scale with shadow, ripping their runestones free. I start with the one who dared set its teeth in Sigale's shoulder, skim past the one who now thinks himself my brother, then destroy the 6 blocking the entrance to this canyon. So, Ronnie, if you remember, when I was setting the scene for this, I said there were 7 Wyvern guarding an unconscious dragon in the valley. Mm-hmm. We have here the brother already unconscious, and then we have the shadows spreading out to kill 7 Wyvern and skimming past the one who thinks himself my brother. So when I said I don't think the brother is a human, I think the brother might be a dragon. The one who thinks himself the brother might be a dragon. I think it might be Core because I think that Bodhi is the brother. But like the way this sentence was phrased, the way everyone is set up, why would it seems to be pointing to this dragon. So what is going on with this dragon? And we've talked about kind of the hive-mindedness. What is going on with this dragon that Xaden now refers to him as the one who thinks himself my brother? I see your puzzled look. I'm intrigued.
Well, 2 things. One, there's now thinks himself my brother. So you're assuming that this is the dragon of
the brother.
The new brother.
The new brother. Yeah.
Okay. I don't know that I necessarily disagree with that. They're basically one entity at that point, right?
Yeah, maybe.
However, hold on, I'm looking for a specific quote. So what we have prior to that is Xaden's POV says, I glance past Berwyn, past Sigale and the Venin, to my new brother and the unconscious dragon lying in the valley beyond the canyon, guarded by 7 Wyvern. It sounds like the new brother and the unconscious dragon are together.
Yeah, I agree. But Shadow drags Berwyn from Sigil and knocks both him and my new brother unconscious. So it's unclear where the new brother is. Like, is the new brother next to Berwyn, or is the new brother next to the dragon? In my mind. I could be wrong. It could be the one who thinks himself my brother is the same as the brother. That is most likely what's happening.
I'm going to be boring here and say I think that's it, but I like the train of thought.
Yeah. I will say it's not Jack. It's important to note that it's not Jack.
It's important to note that it is not Jack.
Jack is in Orisha. Jack is not here. Jack's in the Ribestad chest. He's gone. Jack is not in this canon.
I love the next question, though, for that reason.
I know. All right, so it's not Jack. Yeah, I was just thinking maybe this was the dragon. Maybe it's not that interesting a line of thought.
And if it's the dragon, then it's interesting because are there dragons allied with Venin?
Right. Well, right. So,
riders?
like, why the resentment? If it's the dragon, why so much resentment towards Kur when there's not the resentment towards Bodhi, seemingly? Right. This is the first time where he says the one who thinks himself my brother versus just my new sibling, my brother. Right. Why the resentment towards the dragon rather than the rider?
Okay. My official answer on this is I do think they're the same. However, I appreciate it.
This is actually really funny. I wrote in my notes, we know that initiates and ASIMs can sense each other, so presumably Xaden can sense Bodhi. Does this also open a line for Xaden to Kur? And with Xaden's intention reading, can he now read Kur's thoughts? And underneath in all caps, I wrote, stretch. This is a stretch.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. We actually get tons of comments about the line that we both like, where Taryn says, don't read me human, or don't try to read me human.
Yeah.
I honestly still, like, I'm a little bit in my Veronica just, like, be normal era right now, which is, like, it is very accepted knowledge for both flyers and riders that you are not supposed to stare at a dragon for too long. And so, like, is staring at a dragon for too long making them feel like you are trying to read them in some capacity? And are there reasons for that? I think we should talk about that at some point. Not now.
Yeah. All right.
Okay.
So the one who thinks himself his brother might be a dragon, might just be the brother, but it's definitely not Jack. It's not Jack.
It's definitely not Jack.
Definitely
That's
not Jack.
a really important takeaway.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
Okay. So the next question we asked ourselves is, who is Berwyn's son and who is the other son? So for context, Panchek says to Berwyn, I'm the only one who can give you access to your son. And Berwyn says, I have another, and then kills Panchek's dragon. The son that Panchek is referring to, I'll just say it straight outright. Like, it is probably Jack, and the other son is probably the new brother. But let's talk about it. Let's talk about, like, why might it not be? I could see, quote, access to your son as something way more interesting. And so I went down a weird path where I thought about whose fathers we don't know.
Yes.
I'm looking at your reaction to see whether I'm, like, completely going off the rails.
No. Because Panchek says, I'm the only one who can give you access to your son. Yeah. And what Berwyn says is, I have another. What he should have said is, I have others. Because at this point in time, he has both Xaden and the brother. So, right, he says, I have another, implying one. But he should have implied two. So this might not be about Venin at all. It might be about actual sons. Right? So then who the fuck is Berwyn's son? And his other son?
Yeah. Whose fathers don't we know? Bodhi's is never mentioned. Hardly ever. I mean, we know that he's cousins with Xaden, but it's Fenn's sister that's Bodhi's mother. And also Bodhi has mentioned, like, I'd love to see my mother again. He does not mention his father. Garrick's father is mentioned. He was Fenn's right hand, and he's presumed dead via execution. I think it's interesting to think about the Bodhi line and the Xaden line and the Grandpa Ryerson potential here. Yep. What are your thoughts?
So I went a slightly different way, and I thought, okay, who do we know? I said, who are the important sons rather than who are the important fathers, right?
Okay.
And I said, okay, who does Panchek have access to? Any cadet at Basgiath, right?
Yep.
So who are the important sons in this story? Xaden, he is an only son, but you're right, he has a cousin. Brennan is an only son. Dane, only son. Aaric is not an only son. And we actually got a comment about this. So Aaric is not an only son. Aaric has a brother. Aaric is a cadet at Basgiath, and King Tari could not find him. I don't think it's Aaric. I don't think King Tari is Berwyn, because then, like, what is the entire point of this war? Right? Like, it doesn't really make any sense. And King Tari can still get to Basgiath, but I thought that was an interesting point. I don't have an answer here. But I do think that this might mean a literal son rather than a Venin son. I think the who I have another is a pointing towards We're not talking about Venin right now. We are talking about actual sons, and Berwyn might be someone's father. What thoughts are going through your head right now?
Well, I was trying to see if I was smart enough to do this live, like pulling the Grandpa Ryerson thread. So if Berwyn is Grandpa Ryerson, I wish I had my Xaden family tree that we drew a long time ago.
Wait, I think I have mine.
I was going down a path of like, oh my god, what if Panchek, because Panchek was high up at Bisgayeth, right? Like, what if we have talked before about like if anybody who was executed by Dragonfire was Venin, they are not actually dead, right? Like, we agree with that, I think, generally.
Yes, yeah.
And so, like, if Fen or anybody who was executed, Isaac, whatever, were Venin at the time of execution and a son of Berwyn, literal or non-literal, then they could still be alive and being, like, suspended somewhere or drugged. I don't know. I don't have a great one for this.
But I do think we're pulling on some good threads here.
Yeah.
Could be nothing, as per usual. Could be nothing.
Could be nothing. Could be a literal son.
Yes. All right.
Who is the other initiate that wants to kill their sage?
Such a fun question. All right. The quote is, I don't actually have the quote written down. Do you have it written down?
The quote is, I wonder how many initiates feel the same about their sage. At least one that I know of.
Okay. So that's the quote. And this is after Xaden has talked about his bond with Berwyn and why he can't kill him even though he really wants to. And then he says, I wonder how many initiates feel about this the same about their sage. How many initiates does Xaden know? As far as we know, Jack is the only one, right? And it doesn't seem like Jack really wants to kill Berwyn. Jack seems pretty gung-ho about the whole thing.
Yep.
Right? All right. So this is where the crazy comes out, because I think the answer is Naolin. What do you think?
Oh, I definitely think the answer is Naolin.
Wonderful.
I had that written down.
Great.
Yeah.
All right. So why could it be about Naolin? We've gone into depth about why Naolin might be Venin. You guys have had thoughts on it. One woman was like, no, Rebecca said in an interview, he's dead. Like, he's definitely dead. And I'm like, I hear you. I hear what you're saying. But she's not about to say, no, he's a Venin, is she?
Rebecca tells us the truth about as much as the dragons do. That's the way that I choose to think about
Yeah,
her.
I mean, like, what are you going to do? Give away the fucking whatever. All right. So maybe it's not Naolin, but Xaden certainly knows a Venin, right? Xaden certainly knows a Venin on the inside. He knows him well enough. I'm assuming it's a he. He knows them well enough, either to have read their intentions and know that they want to kill their sage, or to have talked to them. And I think it's interesting, right? Because I was going back and reading a quote. I didn't write it down, but someone said, what we trade for power basically is our freedom, right? Because we have to obey the calls of our sage. So even for Venin to be having these thoughts, I think is really interesting and like not what they expected at all. Like, I think it's kind of a mind control thing and it's not working.
Yeah.
All right. So
and Xaden was summoned. Like, I definitely
right.
think
Xaden was
I think the
summoned.
Control lasts. Like,
There
that says we give up our autonomy for access to unfettered power. I think the control is a big issue here.
Yeah. And there's a quote early, I think it's chapter like 56 or something, where Xaden is trying to push his shadows at Theophany and they're like summoned south. And Violet goes, that was really weird. What the fuck was that about? Like, and then she's like, I'll think about it later. And then we find out that Berwyn is south of Drathis and has been summoning Xaden, right? So it's like they literally can't use their powers when their sage is summoning them.
Yeah.
All right. So why it could be Naolin. Violet asks Xaden, how long have you known about Brennan? She says, how long did you know about Brennan? He exhales slowly. I've known about Brennan since his death, right? And if Naolin was so intertwined in Brennan's death, and if Naolin turned Venin, then Xaden has known about Naolin being Venin since Brennan's death. Why is Xaden so sure there's no cure? Because he's seen Naolin go through exactly the same thing that he's going through right now and has not found a cure, right? So Naolin also turned for love, still hasn't found a cure. We know the runes can contain the Venin, right? We know that Tyrandor is riddled with runes. So if Naolin has turned, it is possible that he is somewhere in Tyrandor, but being kind of fed, same situation with Jack, being fed by the alloy, being contained by the runes so that he can't hurt anyone. I'm not sure if he's a prisoner or if he's just like loyally working with the rebellion, right? But like we have been told that runes can contain Venin, and we know that Tyrandor is like capital hotspot of runes. Let me see what else I have here.
I also, for what it's worth, so I'll share mine after the fact, but I totally think it's Naolin, just as a spoiler. I don't necessarily think that it means Naolin has to like be still around, still working with Xaden, even still alive, if Xaden knew of somebody else who turned, who hated their sage. Like, to me, it doesn't need to go that deep. Like, if Xaden knows that Naelin became Venin, yeah, that qualifies.
Yeah. Yeah. But I think the other piece of this that a lot of people overlook, right? Everyone's like, oh, Naolin is Venin, so he must be evil, right? Like he's the sage, he's the big bad. Like that's what we're working towards. Xaden is proof that all Venin aren't evil, right? Like Xaden is proof that you can turn and still feel love and feel things. And like, I don't know, like he's willing to go to Brennan and say, I need a cure. We need to fix this, right? Is that because Brennan has been going through the exact same thing with Naolin and would understand the situation that Xaden is now in? Yeah. Your thoughts?
I went through the same list. Like, Xaden clearly knows an initiate who hates their sage, or knew someone who was once an initiate who hated their sage. Jack does not hate Berwyn. I do think there's a case for this being the new brother. You can think of one. It's the person who just turned. And then I had some other initiate that we aren't aware of, but Xaden is. And so I do think that it could be somebody else, but I think, like, based on everything we know and have talked about, Naelin is the most interesting. I just think it's Naelin.
It's just Naelin.
Because, like you said, Xaden has known about Brennan since his death. If Naelin brought Brennan back, then he had to have known what happens, which to me is actually really hard. Like, that's the hardest thing to reconcile with, because then he's just been keeping that. Like, he's been holding that this whole time. And probably
Xaden keeps secrets.
Xaden, Sigale, and Taryn. All of them.
Yeah. What does Taryn say? Taryn says, like, I promise not to keep any secrets from you that could jeopardize you at the beginning of Iron Flame, right? Like,
yeah. I mean, Taryn does get a little bit of a pass because Violet knows the entire time that dragons cannot be full disclosure with their riders. Like, they're just not. But I think she does assume that it's about dragon matters, not, you know, human matters that have something to do with her direct sibling. So I feel like there's going to be some betrayal in store for us, but or at least feelings of betrayal.
I don't think we're done with secrets. Put it that way.
I mean, Taryn and Sigale are proof that there's no way we can be done with secrets.
My actual next week for my corrections, omissions, and social media, I have one that's like, okay, Xaden is clearly still keeping secrets, but it's in a very sweet way. You'll see. Okay, cool. It's Naelin. This was not as long as I thought it was going to be. I thought there was going to be a lot of back and forth here.
Nope. I agree.
Great.
Okay, what does Berwyn have that Xaden needs? So shortly after this, actually literally right after this, Xaden says that thing about initiates, he says, at least one that I know of, but beyond the physical impossibility of it, he has something I need, and I'm no longer an initiate. We're interpreting here that Xaden needs something from Berwyn. So I made a list of the things that Berwyn has and the things that Xaden needs, and I just want to talk about them. So what are the things that we have seen Berwyn have? The Sword of Tyrandor. We've seen that, to clarify, in a dream. So we don't know that Berwyn physically has it, but we have seen...
I mean, last we saw Xaden had it.
Last we saw it in real life, Xaden had it. Yeah. Xaden's new brother. Berwyn has now this new brother, it seems. Jack. Is Jack significant? I don't know.
But Berwyn doesn't really have Jack.
He does not really have Jack. Yeah, Jack is an Orisha. Dreamwalking. I think the thing that Berwyn has that Xaden needs is dreamwalking. He's the only other dreamwalker. And I think there's the link that could be the reason Xaden needs it. I also think there's the knowledge of what it can do.
Exactly.
That Xaden needs Violet to have in order for this whole plan that he brings the ice down for and shows Sigale to play out. I think he needs to be able to communicate with Violet, and he needs Violet to know how to use dreamwalking to its full extent.
That was it. It's dreamwalking.
I want to give some honorable mentions and also go through what Xaden needs. So Berwyn also has a bunch of Venin. So is there someone else who turned under Berwyn that Xaden needs? Like, Jack has told us that they give up autonomy for access to unfettered power. So it's possible that these bonds are totally permanent. And in that case, Berwyn has a lot of people. Like, he could have Tyrish citizens, Peromish citizens. Like, we don't know, right? Who's under Berwyn? What does Xaden need? Violet, a cure to Veninism, a way to protect and save Sigale. I want to talk about the cure to Veninism part for a second, because I think the Venin know how to cure Venin. Theophany wrote to Violet, "Why do you not ask me for the answers you so desperately seek?" Violet directly implies after that she either knows that they're looking for Irids, or she knows that they're looking for a cure.
And Jack also says, why don't you ask me what you actually want to know?
And Jack says, there is no cure because we do not wish to be cured.
Right.
Not, there's no cure that's possible at all. I want to talk about something a little bit unrelated here, but let me leave it here. Like, Xaden needs a cure to Veninism. I think the Venin know how to cure Veninism and just do not want to.
Yeah, so I put the same, I literally had the same train of thought. It's fun when we do this. So, all right, what does Xaden need? Xaden needs first to protect Violet, then to protect Tyrandor. I did not put to protect Sigale on this list because I think he's already kind of done that. But first to protect Violet, then to protect Tyrandor. Theophany offers Violet knowledge and control. So can Berwyn offer Xaden the same thing? So I came to the same conclusion. He's probably looking for some kind of knowledge from Berwyn. I think he's given up on a cure. So the options there are basically cure or how to manage dreamwalking, right? I think he's given up on a cure. So I don't necessarily think Xaden's looking for that. Maybe he doesn't want to be cured, like Jack said. Maybe he's like, okay, actually, this is my fate. I made this choice. I will sit with it. But, and I know you don't listen to Rebecca's interviews, but Rebecca said on the Denver stop of her book tour, there's only one person alive who can teach Violet about her second signet. Berwyn is that person. We know that Berwyn is that person, right? So Berwyn's not going to give up this information on his own, right? So Xaden needs to figure out a way how to get this information from Berwyn and back to Violet. Again, it might be through dreamwalking. It might be some other way. I don't know. But Xaden somehow needs to get that information from Berwyn. Like Berwyn's not going to teach Violet how to do this on her own. That would be an insane thing for him to do. She's his enemy.
Yeah.
So I came to the same thing. And then I added, because we have this awesome theory from Lovebug about the bond between Xaden and Berwyn being broken. And Andarna breaks the bond between Xaden and Berwyn. My theory is Xaden is somehow holding Berwyn with runes, maybe in another Ribosad chest. Mm-hmm. Probably going to be somehow getting this information out of him in the next book. So either torture or mind reading or something else. But somehow this is about dreamwalking, in my opinion. Yeah.
Yeah. On the cure point, this is not related. I want to slap someone in this book for not having Andarna try anything while changing her scales. Like she says in
magic
the book,
feels different.
I altered the Venin while I was changing my scales. Magic feels different while I was changing my scales. I'm like, Andarna, my girl, like we gotta try something while you're changing your scales. I did wonder whether, to your point on who gave Berwyn dreamwalking, if Berwyn has an Irid, then they may know that Irids can change Venin somehow. Like, is that why they want them? I don't know. But yeah, like we gotta try something while you're changing your scales, because
we gotta try something. We tried nothing. We tried
nothing.
We did no science.
We were like,
what the fuck, guys?
Find some other ones. When we had one right in front of us, we could have tested some stuff out with. Like, I don't know. Anyways.
Yeah, whoever was running that Venin study needs to come back and run an Irid study.
Yeah, right. Okay, Abby, why was it the only way?
Well, we talked about this. I think when I made this question, I didn't have my answer for who was the brother, but the only way being because Bodhi channeled. So this is the only way because they need to get Violet onto the throne of Tyrandor to protect her and to protect Tyrandor.
Yeah. And just to rebuke anything about like maybe Aaric saw something that makes this the only way. He says, you saw what happened. It is the only way. So it is a direct result of something that has already happened. And I do think it is about who turned. And I think
this gets into Aaric's signet. We talked about this a little bit previous in this episode, but we've talked about whether Aaric's signet is like he sees the future and this is it, or if there's like a number of paths that can be taken. And I think this shows us that there are paths that can be taken. And that Aaric offers you choices. Fate offers you choices. But Aaric sees the different choices and then the different ways that things could play out based on that.
Yep.
Which I think is very, very interesting. And he basically has to like play 3-dimensional chess and get all the pieces.
Well, yeah. And as part of my answer to this question, I noted that the words every possible path is said 9 times.
Yeah, holy shit. Yeah.
And all referenced to finding a cure. So I actually have a quote from this part of the story from Xaden. A clamoring, consuming emotion pounds at the ice, but I can't.
He's channeling. Yeah, he's channeling. Yeah.
She has her own path. No matter what I choose, it's wrong, but only one path leaves Sigale alive. So I think Xaden has been reading Aaric's potential paths the entire time, and I think actually Andarna has been too. And I think the 3 of them know all the paths, and Xaden knew in that moment that his had narrowed down to 1. He was like, this is it.
This is it. This is the only way. Yeah. I totally agree with that. And I totally agree that Andarna has also been involved in this scheming the whole time.
Yeah, the whole time.
The whole time. Yeah. Yep. I don't have quotes for that. It's just a gut feeling.
Just a gut feeling.
But I mean, her showing up when she does also, which we'll get into in the next episode.
I added one question that I don't know what
Great.
you saw.
No, I didn't see it. Sorry.
No, it's totally fine. I had it because I just wanted to talk about one specific thing. What is the purpose of Rhee and Imogen's POV chapters? Like, why do we have them? Do you want to go first? Do you want to improv this?
Yes, I thought so. I've told you I've read Rhee's POV chapter like 4 times. I've been like, what the fuck are we getting out of this? I think there's 2 things. One, it establishes where they are. It establishes the geography like we talked about. It tells you, and there's mention of like dragons on top of the cliffs, and one of them is a brown dragon. So people were like, oh, like Tradra is injured, and like that's why Garrick turns, but it's not because he's off somewhere else. So I think we're supposed to understand that there are dragons there, but those are not the dragons. I think it establishes where they are. I think, and this is a teaser for next episode, I think Rhee plays a part in the 12 hours. And I'll tell you what I think she does when we get there. But I was racking my head about this. I'm like, why the fuck are we getting a Rhee chapter? I think it's because she is involved in that. And this is setting us up for that. Imogen, I think, was because we need to see Bodhi on his hands and knees retching. I think we need someone in Dreythus. I mean, a couple important things happen, right? We get Dane learning about the second signets in Imogen's POV chapter. I think we're going to get more Imogen POV chapters. That's at least my hope, because I really enjoyed it. I think we'll get more in the next book. And I think that's setting this up because she might know what happened in those 12 hours. But again, I think it's to kind of establish who the brother is basically my thinking.
Yeah. I mean, I think we get plot notes. We get important plot notes from Imogen's POV. Like, I think that's totally true. She also mentions at one point that she hadn't seen shadows in 20 minutes, and she was supposed to be in Dreythus with where Xaden was also.
Right.
So, like, where was he? What was he doing? Like, I think that was important. And I think Rhee's also, I'm curious, and now I'm super curious what you're going to say in our next episode, but I think Rhee was an important proof point of exposure to what other relationships with dragons are like. Rhee runs the show there, and we get like a view into what it's like when the rider is the leader and the dragon is not necessarily. Like, she's relaying orders and actually taking orders from Rhee as well. We also got this farsight thing, and I just can't, my brain can't erase it. So to just take us back for a moment, this Rhee chapter happens before Taryn says the gift of our sight is afforded to few, right? So in Rhiann's chapter, she asks Virt to ask Baelor, I think, how many wyvern Baelor sees. So Rhee is asking her dragon to ask another dragon to ask their rider how many wyvern they see using their farsight. Implied. And they relay it, and that's the end of that. In the next, I don't know if it's the next chapter or the following one, Violet asks Taryn, why does farsight even exist if you can see that far? And Taryn says, kind of as an offhanded comment, the gift of our sight is afforded to few. And Violet's like, okay. This makes me think one of 2 things. And they're both, like, admittedly a little bit off kilter. So, like, I accept that these are a little weird. One is Rhee being lied to about the dragon's ability to see. Like, should we be suspecting Firga's loyalties, anything about that? Like, why is it just not mentioned to her at all, but it's mentioned to Violet? Don't know. 2 is something going on with Taryn where Taryn is able to see how many wyvern or know how many wyvern are there, not based on his sight. And he's lying. I don't know.
Like he's part of the hive mind.
He's part of the hive mind.
Because Naolan is a Venin.
He has a bond to somebody else that can see it. Yeah. Like, yeah. I don't know. Like, those 2 things don't add up.
Okay, so we know
black dragons see far. I don't know.
So we know that Violet's magic is attracted to the wyvern, and that's how she takes out 38 of them. But her magic is really Taryn's magic. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I mean, maybe it is Taryn. And now I'm going back to like the one who thinks himself my brother too, right? Because we talked about. All right, let's walk down crazy train with Abby here. Okay.
Well, the runes are runed to hold power, I think, to begin with. So the fact that her power is attracted to runes could just be any pure power.
Any power. Yeah. Any power. But like, okay, so let's say the one who thinks himself my brother is the dragon. And let's say Naolan is a Venin.
I'm definitely saying the second one.
And Taryn has stayed bonded with Naolan, as we've talked about being a possibility. Is Taryn in this wyvern network now? Is he tapped into it? Is he a spy because one of his riders is a Venin? I don't know.
But he
says he can't sense them in Orisha at the Cliffs of Draelor when the Wyvern attack.
Yeah.
Yeah, so never mind. As per usual, we still know nothing.
Yeah. We know that something's up with that. I actually remembered reading those two things further apart than they actually were. They're too close together. That was
shocked. I'm shocked by that, but you're totally right. I thought the farsight thing happened way earlier.
Yeah, no. It was at the end. After we had ask a dragon to ask their rider. The fuck? Like,
okay, have you seen the theory that Violet is part dragon?
I've seen a theory about her having consumed Irid eggshells.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sure. I don't know if that makes her part dragon, but
I agree. But if there's something to that, is that why Taryn is like sharing farsight? And is it like no other human gets to know about farsight, but Violet can know because she's part dragon or something like that?
Yeah, and is every other human able to see through their dragon's eyes? Like, that's never really confirmed for us either.
When Violet gets the relic after threshing, is it Andarna's eyes or is it Taryn's eyes that she sees through? I don't know that it matters. But has she ever seen through Andarna's eyes?
I thought it was Andarna's eyes.
I think it was Andarna's eyes too.
For the relic. But she's also definitely seen through Taryn's eyes.
Yeah, she definitely has.
Yeah. So that was one of my proof points in our first ever episode for why Violet needs to walk in mines.
Right.
Yeah. But if everyone could do that, then like that's not really that valid.
It's such a weird. I mean, we've talked about farsight. I never thought when we started this journey we would talk so much about farsight, but I'm glad that we have. Yeah, just being like the weirdest fucking signet ever. Yeah, I mean, I think the most likely Occam's razor answer here is just that Ferga is not. What is it? Sorry, Ferga is not being entirely truthful with Ree. And Ree is not privy to everything that Violet is privy to with Taryn.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what does that mean for Ree now that she's fighting like kind of officially on this side? I don't know.
Yeah, it's not. I don't know.
Yeah.
Or is Ferga just not as powerful as Taryn?
Totally possible. Yeah. Or is it like, yeah, they're also different colored dragons. I don't know what each breed den can do. I don't know.
Cool. All right. Pre-cog?
Pre-cog corner.
You want me to go first?
This is going to be crazier than mine, so you should take the thunder. I had to kind of split my pre-cog corner theories between these two episodes, and I chose the better one for the next one. So.
I did too. Oh, shit. Sorry, everyone. All right. So we've talked about Xaden being potentially a Venin offspring. We talked about Xaden, Violet, and Dane being our big three for potentially being Violet offspring. And in fucking classic fashion, I think we forgot about Bodhi. Because if Berwyn is Grandpa Rearson, then Bodhi might also be Venin offspring. We've also talked about...
Fenn's sister is also of that same grandfather.
Yeah, Fenn's sister. Yeah, but it would be. Fenn's sister would be...
But Grandpa Rearson,
we've talked about
Ryerson, like was grand uncle on paper. So if Fenn's sister was of the true line, then
okay. So we're talking about the potential twin scenario here, basically, where Fenn and his sister would be twins, which we talked about way back in the Xaden deep dive.
Yeah, go listen to it.
It's 2 parts. It's crazy.
Yeah.
All right, and we talked about what Bodhi's name means, but I went back and I Googled. I'm like, okay, what does Bodhi's name exactly mean? So I'm just going to read you the full, like, I know we all hate AI, but like the AI recap of what Bodhi's name means. Origin and meaning. Bodhi originates from the Sanskrit language and translates to awakening or enlightenment. Buddhism connection. The name is deeply associated with Buddhism, where it represents the state of enlightenment attained by Siddhartha Gautama, the Buddha, under the Bodhi tree. So now we have a Bodhi tree and we have awakening and enlightenment. Spiritual significance. Bodhi symbolizes the ultimate goal of Buddhism, which is to achieve spiritual awakening and freedom from the cycle of life and death. I think that's really interesting with his signet. And I think that's really interesting with him being potentially Venin offspring that evolves, right? Like that goes towards, like, because Buddhism, you have the cycles of life, like in regeneration, and you're always trying to evolve towards that, like, perfect life, and like you're achieving nirvana, basically, right? I'm sure I just horribly butchered Buddhism, and I'm really sorry, guys. I took world religion in 8th grade, so that's what I remember. If you have a better explanation, please let us know. But basically, like, you are always trying to live a better life so that you can get better and better, right? Mm-hmm. So if Bodhi is this Venin offspring, is he the one that is going to evolve, that is going to lead them towards this enlightenment, towards this nirvana, especially if he is now Venin? Like, if he is one of them, is he going to kind of be the one to like lead them out of the desert, Moses style? Yeah. That's part of my precog theory. The second part is this tree thing, the Bodhi tree. Mm-hmm. I mentioned a long time ago that I thought the one who watched was very similar to the three-eyed raven in the tree in Game of Thrones, like someone who can just see everything at once. We don't know Bodhi's second signet. And I realize that this is way out of left field, but this is what Pre-cog Corner is for. But like, is Bodhi kind of the balance? Could Bodhi be the balance for that? Could he be the one who's in the tree kind of looking at everything? I don't really think that one is true, but I thought it was fun to think of Bodhi's name in terms of this Venin offspring, assuming the twin theory holds.
Yeah. I mean, I totally agree. And I think I brought it up in our signet episode that like Bodhi's name plus his signet might mean that like the nirvana, like the goal of this story is that magic is countered, is down. Like we're not seeing it. We're not doing it. I definitely think that the lack of like knowledge about Bodhi's lineage could mean that he's Venin offspring. I don't see a reason not to believe that, especially since we've literally learned nothing about his father.
Yeah.
Feels as fishy as the fact that we've learned nothing about Dane's mother. Zero.
What if Bodhi just is Xaden's brother? They talk about that a lot.
I don't mean through incest, but yeah.
No, I don't think I do. I think I mean, no, I guess I do. So let's take it back. Let's not.
Ew. I mean, because like best case, they're cousins, right? So
yeah, I was thinking about, I was getting like Berwyn and Fen mixed up in my mind.
Well, also like I don't know if Talia, I don't know, had a second son and then Fen's sister just adopted. I don't know why that would be true. So I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think so.
Never mind.
Yeah. Run it back. Okay.
My brain's not working today, apparently.
I have two Pre-cog Corner theories, neither of which I'm obsessed with. So I'm just going to pick one at random. If we hate it, I can just go with the second one.
All right, let's do it.
Okay. So I think this it doesn't even happen in this episode. Whatever. All right. So my Pre-cog Corner theory is about Venin and their ability to sense pain. We have seen and discussed one case of this, and that's Jack in his cell sensing the memory of Violet's pain, which is really odd and like not actually anything that we've seen out of Venin at all, like an ability to sense pain and the memory of it. And so I just kind of dismiss that as like weird. Is it Jack's signet? Is it Veninism? Like I think Rebecca has maybe said that.
Yeah, Rebecca has said it's a Venin
It's a Venin thing?
Yeah.
There's another point at which we see Venin sensing pain. Xaden senses Sigale is in pain when they are in Deverelli, even though he literally can't feel her. Like their bond is broken. There's no magic. And he knows she's in pain. How does he know that she's in pain? She doesn't have the ability to communicate with
I don't know. Can't you tell when Rory's in pain?
Yeah, but she could have just been pissed off.
Yeah, that's true.
Like that she's not.
And Violet even says to Taryn, "Are you in pain?"
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
And Taryn is like, why would I tell you that? You're in pain all the time.
Yeah.
So again, I have brought up, and I don't think you loved it, the idea of Venin being a dedicated form, right? Like dedicated to Malik or some god of pain and suffering that allows them to sense pain and death. Like what if Venin's power, I know they just take direct power, but what if they also have power specific to like who they're dedicated to, where they can sense pain, sense death? I don't know. But it just feels like a non-coincidence that Venin are able to sense pain. They have a physical manifestation of the power that they've taken, which is the red eyes.
The red eyes, yes, for sure.
Branched veins coming out of them. And they're all stemming from the Bay of Malik and the water. Like, I don't know. Maybe I'm doubling down on this one. Maybe I'm doubling down on Venin being dedicated to Malik.
I have a lot of thoughts, but it's going to have to be next episode.
Okay, fine.
Sorry.
Pre-cog Corner theory, Venin can sense pain. Are they dedicated
I
to
definitely think Venin can sense. I totally agree with you on that one. I'm all about Venin can sense pain.
Okay.
Yeah. Do you want to do your other one for fun too?
I'll do it for fun. It's short. There is a quote that made me read it 3 times. And I'm curious whether you read it 3 times as well when we were doing this reread. It was in Rhee's chapter where she's looking at Riddick. And the quote is, Riddick stares at the northern peak, not the path through the valley just south of it, like he could see straight through the thing if he tried hard enough.
Yeah. I think he was looking at Violet, like where Violet was. Yeah.
He was looking at Violet. That's where, yeah. So right after that, Rhee says, like, we should be there. That's where Violet is. So we know that like, he's looking towards Violet. And at first I was like, well, is Riddick just in love with Violet? Like, I kind of feel like we've been
everyone's fucking in love with Violet.
Told a lot of things that would make us think that's the case. But I'm wondering whether this is an indication of another signet that we don't know about.
Or could it just be farsight? Because Rhee doesn't realize that every dragon has fucking farsight.
Yeah. Could it be farsight? is there a signet where you can see through things? It just feels like very intentional wording. Like he could see straight through the thing if he tried hard enough.
Yeah, I think it could be. There's no reason only the marked ones have second signets, right?
Yeah,
Like,
if it's truly tied to the dragons seeking you out and bonding you because of who your parents were. And I don't think we know anything about Riddick's lineage.
No, we don't know.
Yeah.
I don't even remember where he's from. I think we are told at one point, but I
think
don't
we're told
remember.
something about where he's from. I agree with you, but I don't think we're told anything about whether his parents were riders or infantry or anything else. So I don't know.
Cool.
Not a lot to stand on, but that's the kind of the point, kind of the whole point.
All right.
Okay.
Do you want to do what we're reading? Because I have things to fucking say.
Oh, yeah, then you should go because I'll start. I mean, I'm reading nothing because I'm in a deep, dark work hole. But my plan, I think I'm like not excited about my rereads or excited about reading in general right now because I'm not reading anything new. And so I think I'm going to start the Shepherd King duology.
I haven't heard of that one.
Let me see what the title of the first one is. The first book is One Dark Widow and the second is Two Twisted Crowns.
Fun. Is it Romantasy?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I'm excited. Let me know in the comments whether that's a terrible idea, but honestly, by the time this is out, I probably will have already started it.
Actually, I was going to do a different reading corner because I'm kind of reading two things, but I'll just say, since we're talking about books you might like, there's just fucking flies everywhere. I started a book this morning. Garrick actually read this book in one sitting yesterday. It's kind of a novella. And I have been reading nothing but Sarah J. Maas books for the past 6 weeks. I'm on Throne of Glass and I'm like, I need to read something else. This is I like it, but like this is too much of one thing. So there's a book called This Is How You Lose the Time War. Derek won't tell me much about it because he wants me to read it and enjoy it. I'm only 2 chapters in, but I think it's great already. And it's sci-fi, but it's like sci-fi romantasy kind of like it is a love story. It's a gay love story, which I'm all about. It's 2 women. I am really enjoying it. It seems to be a quick read. I think you would probably really enjoy it. I'll tell you when I'm done with it. But I'm 2 chapters into that. I started that this morning.
Exciting.
And it's really great because it's not too long and it's a good palate cleanser for Sarah J. Maas, which I guess I'll rant about in the next reading corner because I don't want to give it all away right now.
Yeah, fair.
All right. Cool. Social media,
yes. So we are on just about everything you could possibly think of. We are Dragons in the Details Pod on TikTok, Instagram, YouTube. Our email address is dragonsinthedetailspod@gmail.com if you would like to leave us a note there. We love it. And we are on Spotify, Amazon, Apple, any podcasting platform that you could possibly think of. Please do check us out. It's where we get like tons of our interactions, engagement, make episodes responding to your comments. So we really love to hear from you. And your comments just make us better. Truly, like I try to stay away from like other podcasts about this topic so that I'm not like taking other people's theories unknowingly or subconsciously, but your comments make me think about things that I've certainly not thought of. So we love them. We appreciate you. And please do review, rate, subscribe. It really helps us out because we're itty bitty and finding our way.
Figuring it out like Violet in Book 1.
Like Violet in Book 1.
Did you mention Discord?
Oh, and we have a Discord server. It's all linked in basically everything that
it's in our episode notes. Yeah,
it's in our episode notes. It's linked to our Instagram, linked to our TikTok. But the Discord server is super fun. As Abby mentioned at the beginning of the episode, it's really just a place for you guys to talk and respond to each other's theories and get all of your Onyx Storm crazy out. We've heard from some of the members that like it's a great place for if your friends didn't love the books.
Or if they just didn't love them as much as you did, which is the situation Ronnie and I are in. Like our friends read it, but they would not sit and talk about it for hours.
Yeah, they would not.
Yeah,
but we love them.
We do. Yeah. All right.
That's it. All, folks. See you in part 2.
Love you. Bye.
Love you. Bye.